There have been murmurs recently suggesting that the video game industry, the AAA industry, is in massive trouble. Games are becoming more expensive than ever to make. The profit margins, they're getting tighter. So that really begs the question, why then are companies like Ubisoft making absolute garbage that no one asked for, like Skull and Bones? What even is this? This isn't Assassin's Creed Black Flag that some people were asking for. It's like a pirate ship simulator, but not a pirate simulator. This is a game I've just got no interest in playing at all because of all of the development hell that it seems to have gone through. Like 8 years of dev time for this piece of crap. What is going on? But any videos I see of it, and I say this as someone who would love to play a real pirate game that was actually genuinely cool. It was immersive. I feel like a pirate. I'd love to play something like that, but Skull and Bones isn't in it. It just seems like you go around in your ship. It's a live service this, live service that. It's not about being a pirate simulator. It simply seems like it was just, hey, some people are asking us for a pirate game. How can we monetize this to infinity? How can we best build our dream live service model, our best money generator, and then build some pirate stuff around it? That's all it really seems like to me. And I'll be totally honest, I have not played this. I know people who have. I've watched videos, but I'm not spending $70 on this thing. And I bring this up for a reason. I didn't think I would talk about this game, but I am, because I'm seeing a lot of comparisons showing that it's actually worse than Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag from like 10 years ago. It's sort of cheaper and qualitier, it's nastier. How is this possible when the industry bangs on and on about how games are so expensive to make? Where is this money going? Is it purely going to employees who've got absolutely no talent, but they tick a box on the HR document, the diversity box, all of that sort of stuff? What is this? So my overall point I want to talk about today is not just Skull and Bones being bad, which it looks abysmal, but it's what's going on with Ubisoft. Because to me, they're just a really odd company. I haven't always hated Ubisoft. I think you go back to, say, the late 90s, early 2000s, I believe that sort of time period, they weren't so bad. The original Far Cry, even Far Cry 2, felt quite creative. I had a lot of fun in that game. Beyond Good and Evil. They had some solid little titles back then. And then suddenly a flip was switched around the time of the success of the Assassin's Creed franchise, where they just turned into like this conveyor belt, this soulless corporation, where every game, it seems to be metric-based, it's built with spreadsheets, not with any sort of creativity at all. All of these games, whether it's Assassin's Creed now, Far Cry, Skull and Bones, they all just follow this super boring formula, and I don't understand how not everyone has gotten sick of it. How are people still playing these games? I've tried to fire a few up now and again, so I could sort of have some perspective and think, am I just putting a bias on these games? Did I play one or two and maybe just get burnt out, get sick of them, and maybe they're not so bad? But anytime I've gone back to one, I've tried to play Far Cry Primal, I've tried to play more modern ones like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and they are so boring, man. It's just copy and pasted content around the map. It's all about these little dopamine hits. You clear out an outpost, there's a dopamine hit. You do a brainless quest where you don't even want to watch the cutscenes or follow the story because it's so brainless and generic. It feels like a modern Marvel movie or something. I cannot get interested, and yet they still seem to sell. Now, I don't think it's just a me thing, because I have played other modern open world games, and they've been a bit better, whether it's the Sony ones or even something like Arkham Knight. I went back and played that a year or two ago, and it was way better than anything Ubisoft's doing. It's more interesting, the story's more engaging, the quests feel like they have some effort to it, the combat's a bit better, the Riddler trophies, for instance, there's more going on. Ubisoft don't do any of it, and it puzzles me because I don't think as teams, individual game development teams, they are as talentless as they seem. It's like they have hands tied behind their back. Because I haven't hated every single Ubisoft game. For instance, the recent Prince of Persia, which was obviously a lower budget title, It's way better than anything else they've done recently. It's quite a solid game, a good little platformer Metroidvania. I wanted to support that because I wanted to show this is what we want. We don't want this crap, Skull and Bones and the like. Also, the Mario and Rabbids games, they're pretty decent. It seems like Nintendo had them on a short leash and pretty much said, if you want to make a Mario game, you've got to do it our way. It can't be your soulless generic crap. We're not going to tarnish the Mario brand like you've done with all of your series. But what we are going to do is have a look at a video which shows the comparison of just how downgraded Skull and Bones seems to be compared to Black Flag from 10 years ago. So puzzling. How does this happen after 8 years? All this whinging about game development costs. You've clearly thrown money down the drain. This game's going to die. They're trying to sell it for $70 to try and get some box copy sales, knowing they're going to flick the off switch eventually. This game's not going to survive. Even Sea of Thieves by Rare, another studio that I once loved but kind of went on a downhill path with Microsoft, even Sea of Thieves does much better. Maybe that game's okay. I've never played it. I'm just not interested in a lot of these live services. But Sea of Thieves seems much better than Skull and Bones. One thing I want to mention that's quite funny is on the website, it does mention long live piracy here on the left in quite small text. If there was any way I would play this, it would purely be through piracy. I better not say too much, but I found that quite funny. Now, if we have a look at this video comparison, we're going to start off looking at the water details. And this is Black Flag. So this, again, 10 years old. The water looks quite nice. I played this when it came out. I was getting a bit sick of the formula, but it looked good. But now we see Skull of Bones. Just looks terrible. And you can't even swim in this game, I don't believe. A pirate game, and you can't go swimming. What is this? The shipboarding, which I'm sure all we'll see in a second. That's bad. And we go back to Black Flag. It just looks cleaner. It's nicer to look at. I don't think graphics are everything by any means. But I just think when you've got this AAA game, they call it quadruple A, and they bang on and on about how, we've got to put all this time and effort in. There's so much talent going into this. We've got to start charging $70. But your presentation is lacking. It's awful. What are your strengths here? Because anything high budget these days, I assume it's all about the graphics and the visuals. The game design's usually mindlessly safe, mindlessly pathetic. Certainly compared to even indie games made by small teams. So the money's not going into gameplay. If the visuals are bad, is there embezzlement going on? What do you... Look at these waves. I've got to see that again. Jesus Christ, this is Banjo-Kazooie Treasure Trove Cove levels of detail on the N64. What are they doing with the money? How many people worked on this game? Didn't it have like hundreds and hundreds of people? There was like a government, the Singapore government or something, poured money into this thing. What are they thinking? Taxpayers' dollars. So this is meant to be the main event, the pirate ship battles, which Skull and Bones was the big selling point, that it was going to be all this. Heaps of ship battles, less of going on land and adventuring. It was just going to be, go for it, fire the cannons. That's what it's all about. And it was alright in Black Flag. I'm going to show you a comparison in a second to a much older game that I think does this ship battle stuff just as well, if not better. But we'll give it a second. Okay, here we go. So surely they got this right. They can't have fucked this up. This is 8 years you spent on it or something. This is literally the main event. This was it. I don't know. I mean, is it bad for what it's trying to do? I don't really know. It doesn't look terrible. But I just can't imagine this being a fun game, especially when it's not like it's a single-player campaign. Maybe there's that solo element. But I don't really understand how you stretch that out and you make that fun for hundreds of hours, potentially. You keep people playing for years and spending money on microtransactions and crap. What are you buying? Skins for the boat? Who cares? So we got well, you can swim, obviously, in Black Flag, which we know you can't do in Skull and Bones, so it's got it covered there. There's those beautiful waves again. As it says, the character can't swim, so you just wander around shore. What are you doing, looking for a message in a bottle or something that's washed up on the beach? Is there anything else that you can do? So this is the boarding, going on ships, and we're going to have really nice sword combat in Skull and Bones, a bit of that. cutlass play. I mean, it's not particularly exciting in Black Flag. I mean, it was kind of cool. The Assassin's sort of Creed mechanics, jumping to the ships. That holds up reasonably well. It certainly did 10 years ago. That's it, you killed a couple of pirates, and then you took them hostage, you got your treasure, that's about it. It wasn't super in-depth, but it was okay. Alright, so you've wounded the ship, and now we can throw across our rope. We're going to take our booty. What? So it's a 5-second cutscene and then a menu screen. Typical live service. Cut out the content, the interesting part. Let's get to the menu, the random generation of here's your treasure. Did you get enough? If you spend money on this little purchase on the store, it'll speed things up. You'll get better treasure. That's what it's all about. Something feels a bit plastic about this. You can sort of see the trees. The graphics look like they're appearing as you get closer. Again, I don't normally care about the graphics. If I was playing an older game, I wouldn't give a toss about this. But it's meant to be an example of why the games are getting more expensive and why they've got to put microtransactions in, because it's all so expensive to make. What are you doing? Nothing's improving. I've seen nothing in Skull and Bones that is an improvement or even suggests any sort of progress in a decade. Okay, so there's no footprint. Oh, no, there are footprints. I'm not feeling the weight of him actually stepping on that sand. It doesn't feel immersive. It feels very fake. So overall, it just looks like a lazy game. And again, if it's Ubisoft, who pour in all this money, who can't even be bothered to get this stuff right to make it look good, I can just tell that the overall game is going to be absolutely a waste of time. And once again, I don't have this standard for every game. It's purely the fact that I feel like I know how Ubisoft work. They pour everything into just one huge game. They've talked about reinvesting in Assassin's Creed. Everything's got to be the big budget title. It's like Activision with COD. They can't possibly spread out what they're doing, spread out the creativity a bit and have a bunch of projects that they're working on. They put all their money into a handful of games and bank on them. So with Skull and Bones, if they haven't bothered to put any effort into it at all, you know at some point they probably realised it was a lost cause and they just figured out how they could release it, scam a few fans, trick them into wasting some money on microtransactions, live service purchases, and then they'll probably just make the game free to play at some point. Basically just giving the middle finger to anyone who was dumb enough to actually spend money on the game when it released, actually paid the $70, and then they'll probably shut down the servers one day. That's what they do. They don't bother keeping things going. They don't try and improve anything. Not that this looks like it's worth saving or improving at all. You might as well just start again. But that seems to be the modern industry, the modern Ubisoft. It's sad. As I've said, there are examples of them actually putting an effort into smaller titles, but they don't really push it, it seems like. Prince of Persia, there was a little bit of marketing, but they really made it clear it's a smaller game they don't care about so much long term, whereas everything goes into these live services that are just getting poorer and poorer, lower quality, less effort, less creativity, which is saying something. A lot of these live services have been awful, but this looks really bad. And I'll tell you what, let's go back to 1997. Things were better here. Curse of Monkey Island, ship battles. Now this is where it is at. Anything in Black Flag, Skull and Bones, it's no better than this. This was fun. Click the mouse, the cannonballs, no convoluted nonsense. You do it, and then you can actually board the ship. We do it. It's a puzzle now. We don't have mechanics for sword play. It's insult sword fighting. You got to use your wits, and then you can take over the ship, take all of that booty, you get richer, and there's even a bit of progression with this. If you haven't played The Curse of Monkey Island, it is a ripper. I was very surprised to find, I shouldn't be surprised these days, but actual defenders of Skull and Bones as well. We're always going to have deluded people. That's just how it goes. And we can see here on the Skull and Bones subreddit, created back in 2017. So again, 7+ years. I said 8 years before, maybe not quite that long, but 7 years, it's not looking good. And some of these people obviously have sunk cost fallacy by now. They've spent so long thinking the game's gotta be good. They've poured everything into it, all this money. They couldn't possibly release a pile of crap, but they've been proven wrong. And yet you get the copers who say, this will be unpopular, but thank you, Ubisoft. Now, at least he said it'll be unpopular. That suggests that most people, even on the game's dedicated forum, they know it's rubbish. They've lost interest already. The game's been out for what, like a week? And he goes on, usually the internet is full of complainers, me included. You're complaining about stuff, but not this? Come on, be consistent. Don't let us down, because every sucker who buys this, it makes the industry worse. It tells the executives, the publishers that, hey, quality doesn't matter. A bit of marketing, make it look good, stitch it all together, and we can make our coin, make our money. Pirate Simulator, there you go. It doesn't matter how dog shit it is. But this is a good game, and they fixed soft note issues already. Well, we saw quite a few issues. I don't think they're fixing those, because the fundamentals of the game, they don't look good. It seems like they had no idea really what to do with Skull and Bones. They just knew that they didn't want to make a single-player game like Black Flag, which is what people wanted years ago, and they just were determined to only make a live service. So they managed to shoehorn all this together. They're not fixing real issues. What, they fixed a couple of glitches. Again, 7 years in development, and you think it's impressive they fixed a few glitches. It's not perfect, but no game is at launch. I'll beg to differ. There's a lot of games, usually single-player games, that are very, very high quality when they release. Have a look at 2023, the Game of the Year lists. Even the top 10, most of them are single-player, and they were all pretty decent when they came out. This isn't impossible. And if you played Overwatch 2 at launch, Overwatch 2, another scam game. That's not even a game. It literally is Overwatch 1 repackaged. They just changed up the monetization. I assume that's what OW2 is. I'm not up with all the lingo of live service, but I assume it is. You're a clown if you're comparing it to that and treating that like it's some sort of positive for Skull and Bones. Come on. Counter-Strike 2 at launch? Again, it's literally a port of an old game, basically, into a new engine. What are your standards here? No wonder that you're used to being a complainer. These are the titles you're playing. Overwatch 2, Jesus Christ. And that continues. I don't know why people are hating. The game has been a blast! I understand many are upset in regards of not inputting visible fighting mechanics, but that's not the point of the game. In that case, just play Black Flag. Well, it was originally sold to people like an answer to people who wanted the next Black Flag. These people did not care about Assassin's Creed, really. They just wanted their pirate game. Ubisoft at some stage seemed like they were obliging, and then they just went in another direction because they realized adventuring on land isn't profitable enough. How are we going to monetize going on a real adventure? It's got to be about only the ship battles and little menu screens everywhere. You kill a ship, there's a loot table, we can monetize that. XP boosters. If you get out your credit card and spend more money, your chance of good loot goes up. That's all you should really be caring about. This game has been awesome, and I honestly can't wait to see what else it offers with updates. There's not going to be any real updates. They're going to string people along. There's probably content they've already made that they've held back. They'll release that over the next 12 months. And then this thing will be dead in the water. Hilarious pun. I'm funny. Now, I don't like to talk about Ubisoft too often. They're basically dead to me because they very rarely release anything slightly credible. Again, Prince of Persia, it gave me the slightest bit of hope that maybe these guys would go in another direction one day, but they're clearly not. Skull and Bones, there's some sort of Assassin's Creed Red, I think it's called, coming out, and I know it's just going to be another Odyssey, Valhalla, this same formula, the same conveyor belt, rinse and repeat. Now, I know the smart thing would be just to ignore this stupid company, but I just think about they're humongous. So many employees within the game industry work at Ubisoft, at various studios. So my copium is just hoping that one day things improve, that they actually see the games that are having huge success, like the Elden Rings, the Baldur's Gate 3s, even the Hogwarts Legacies. Not a super innovative game, but it's much better than the Ubisoft open world titles. It just feels like it has a bit more soul to it. I just hope at one point they allow the creatives to make the decisions. It's not just these managers looking at Excel spreadsheets, looking at metrics and going, if we do this, if we put this together, we're going to maximize our revenue. It's clearly not happening. I doubt they're going to make much from this. I hope Assassin's Creed people realize how stale it is and they don't keep wasting their money. There's other experiences. Are Ubisoft ever going to get better? Probably not. I'll keep the hopium going. But thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.